4 to 5 months ago, I switched my electricity supply from Octopus Energy to E.On after 5 years with the former. But was it worth it? Welcome back to the channel, my name's Shan, and I've been making content on everything related to home stuff, including energy, for over 5 years now. In this video, I'm going to share with you my experience so far on the E.On EXTRA tariff, including the ridiculously low average price per kilowatt hour we achieved just by setting and forgetting, how the E.On EXTRA tariff just got a bit better, and a tip to get your direct debit down if it's high when you sign up. If you watched my last video on leaving Octopus Energy, you'll know that I suspected come October, Octopus Energy may tinker with their import and export rates on some of their tariffs, including the Go and Flux tariff which I was on. And I was right. Octopus Go's peak rate increased from 22.41p to 24.47p per kilowatt hour. The off-peak rate stayed the same, and the standing charge increased from 69.14p to 70.05p per day. Export with Octopus Lights has stayed the same at 8p per kilowatt hour. Likewise, Octopus Flux import day rate increased from 21.28p to 23.19p per kilowatt hour. The Flux rate from 2 AM to 5 AM increased from 12.77p to 13.91p per kilowatt hour, and peak rate 4 to 7 PM increased from 29.79p to 32.46p per kilowatt hour. And the standing charge increased from 69.14p to 70.05p per day. Flux export suffered a similar fate to the detriment of the consumer. The day export rate decreased from 14.31p to 12.4p per kilowatt hour. The Flux export rate from 2 AM to 5 AM decreased from 4.35p to 415p per kilowatt hour. Finally, the peak export rate increased from 21.27p to 24.47p per kilowatt hour. So that peak rate has actually gone up, which sounds pretty good, but as we head into winter with limited solar kicking around, it's pretty much useless having that attractive peak rate, unless of course you're force exporting. Whilst it wasn't a massive shift in prices, it's still a change in the wrong direction for both import and export rates, for consumers just like you and I, chipping away at our savings. This at a time when wholesale gas prices are significantly lower than they were in 2021 and 2022. During the energy crisis. And don't forget, these Octopus rates are not fixed and could change again. Just to say before we go on, I was really surprised with some of the reactions to my I'm leaving Octopus video in August. I had a lot of Octopus Energy customers telling me they didn't care that the rates with E.On were better and that they were just going to stick with Octopus. I even had this one guy in the comments telling me to grow up, and I'm not sure what that was about. I was banned from an Octopus Facebook group and had my post removed in another. Don't get me wrong, Octopus Energy are fantastic, and I commend what they have done in the EV and green space, but at the end of the day, I'm a consumer who chooses to share my experience with others so that we can all get better deals. And I make no excuses for that. Don't forget, competition in the energy market is a good thing, which should open up opportunities for increased savings along the way. And it's those savings which finally allowed us to make switching to an EV a financially viable option for us. Okay, so now that I've been with E.On for 4 to 5 months, how's it been and have there been any issues? Once I was switched to the E.On EXTRA tariff, we had no issues at all. Everything has just worked, including our smart meter sending half-hourly data across. The 7 hours of off-peak electricity, 2 more than Octopus Go, has come in very useful and will continue to be as we head into winter. We've managed to move even more of our electricity consumption into the off-peak hours. In addition to the obvious stuff like charging our EV and home battery, we've been able to start our dishwasher before we go to bed around midnight and schedule our bread maker to finish just before the off-peak period ends at 7 AM. So far we've had monthly bills and statements without needing to prompt E.On to send it through. You can see from my September statement on the screen now that we used 482.7 kilowatt hours of electricity in 30 days, with 470.4 kilowatt hours of that being used in the off-peak period. That's an impressive 97.5% off-peak usage. This resulted in an average price per kilowatt hour of 7.09p, which is ridiculously good, and I should be able to continue to maintain this figure moving into winter. For those of you watching who are on Octopus Agile, I suspect you've achieved averages which are lower than that recently, but I suspect moving forwards into the winter months it won't be so good. Plus with E.On EXTRA tariff I can just set and forget. Our home battery charges to full overnight till 7 AM and is ready to start exporting whatever we can during the day. You'll recall in my last video that when I first signed up to E.On, my direct debit was automatically set at £91.65 a month, which is significantly more than my direct debit was with Octopus. I did try to change this via the dashboard but wasn't able to. I emailed E.On customer services asking if they could halve the direct debit as I'd be consuming mainly off-peak electricity with my solar and battery setup. They suggested that because I have no supply history with them, they couldn't do this, but did reduce it by 10% and would review this in a few months' time. A quick tip to get this down without waiting a few months is to keep dropping the direct debit via your dashboard. You'll only be able to do this by 10% each time, but you can see I've soon whittled this down to a more realistic amount. On to export, and our good experience continues. E.On will pay your export payment every quarter electronically into the bank account linked to your export account. It is a bit more admin than when I was with Octopus Energy, as they used to just credit into my account monthly, but it's not too bad. I've simply set up a recurring reminder on my phone, which coincides with when I need to send over my FIT benefiting arrays generation readings, to take a timestamp photo and email it across to E.On. So far, I've had 1 quarter's export accounted for and received payment within a couple of weeks directly into my bank account. A couple of questions that came up following my last video included, do E.On accept export electricity from a battery, and is there a set limit on how much you can export back to the grid? Yes, E.On accepts forced discharge from a battery back to the grid, and no, there is no limit on how many kilowatt hours your system can discharge back to the grid and be paid for. Whilst Octopus changed their rates in October, E.On did the same, and have recently brought out their NextDrive V4 tariff to supersede their V3 option for new joiners. That doesn't mean that if you're on the V3 tariff that you can't switch to the V4 tariff option. For us in the northeast, the peak rate decreased from 28.56p to 23.36p per kilowatt hour, off-peak rate decreased from 6.9p to 6.7p per kilowatt hour, and the standing charge increased from 71.2p to 72.1p per day. The export option has stayed exactly the same at 16.5p per kilowatt hour. Note these peak rates and standing charges do appear to be region specific, whereas the off-peak and export rates are the same no matter where you live in the country. It's worth bearing in mind that Cornwall Insight predicts that the price cap will fall in January following the October price hike. Prices are also forecast to decline slightly in both Q2 and Q3 of 2025. Despite this forecast fall, bills remain hundreds of pounds above historic averages, with little to suggest a return is on the horizon. So what do we make of that new version 4 tariff? On the face of it, it looks like NextDrive V4 is an improvement on the V3 tariff rates. However, if like me you're a solar and battery storage user, then you won't be consuming much peak rate electricity in the first place. You'll notice that the standing charge has gone up by 0.9p per day. If you're wondering whether to make the switch across from V3 to V4, for my region's rates, as long as we use over 4.5 kilowatt hours in the off-peak slot, then we'll be saving more by switching to V4 from V3. And with us using nearly 16 kilowatt hours in the off-peak period, I hate the term no-brainer, but this one certainly is. And as before, this is fixed for 12 months with no exit fees, should something better come along. Whilst these tariff rate changes aren't huge and will probably save me less than £10 per year overall, it's still a change for the better, in a time when other energy providers are increasing their rates. Switching to the new V4 tariff was easy via my online import account. Under your current tariff details, you'll see the option to switch tariffs. Click on this and you'll be taken to this page where you can pick your new tariff. Make sure it's NextDrive Fixed V4 and click Select Tariff. Double check the tariff rates and click Next. It'll remind you of the eligibility criteria, which are no different to the V3 tariff. Check the I have read and understood this box and click Next. Finally, review the terms and conditions, and if you're happy, click Switch My Tariff. It'll say you'll receive an email confirmation shortly. This doesn't actually happen until they switch you onto the new tariff, so don't worry if you don't get an email immediately. I completed the switch online on the 6th of October, received the email confirmation on the 8th, and my online account now shows that I'm on the V4 tariff. If you want to look at your own numbers in more detail and work out your savings, you can download my ultimate solar and battery tariff spreadsheet via the link in the video description box below. Special thanks to the hundreds of you who have subscribed and downloaded the spreadsheet already. And if you're wondering what to do with your gas supply, I'll be looking at the best gas tariff options as we head into winter. Subscribe to the channel for free with notifications so you're the first to know when that video lands. So 4 to 5 months in, how's it been moving to E.On from Octopus Energy? Well, I have to say I've been rather impressed. All my bills have come in on time, have been correct, and my export paid in a timely manner. If you're thinking of joining E.On, we're offering an extra £20 from us on top of the £50 credit you'll get from E.On. I'll drop some further details and a referral link in the video description box below. If you do choose to use our referral link, then thank you. It really does help keep the channel going. I hope you found that useful, and if you're a net importer of electricity with an electric vehicle, you'll definitely want to check out this super cheap EV tariff in this video over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.